So here, let me just finish off. I think we've touched on this tension, and so I was talking to Julia about this. The last 2 days have been agonising. It's like, oh shit, oh no, I can't say that, because they've already said it. And it's, the longer you wait for your paper, the more you keep going back, thinking, oh, I've got to change that, I've got to do this. And then I eventually realised, you know what, repetition's a good thing. Repetition's creative, it's fine. If I repeat what others have said, it also helps us learn. But this is what I'm really interested in, is the way that new media discourse exemplifies this tension between the creative and the regulated, what young Blommaert talks about quite a lot in his book, Discourse. So I'm borrowing from this idea of determined creativity. And I know a slide called foreplay should probably come at the beginning of the presentation, but these are very sort of slightly half-baked emergent ideas, so I dumped them at the end. I still wanted to call it foreplay because I thought that was terribly funny in my sad world. I think I spend more time on titles, actually, a lot of the time than I do on that, and on the slides, than I do on the rest of it. So here's a little bit, just a couple of comments I want to make about this idea of determined creativity, and the idea that creativity is produced out of these determined, structured, normative spaces. That's precisely where the creative emerges, what I call the creativity of normativity. First of all, I want to suggest that this is not about language and technology. This is language is technology. I don't know why we forget that language is a technology. I'm more fine with the idea of language is like organic and growing like a tree, but actually I think it's not quite the way I see it. I think language is a technology. It's a way of organising, regulating, and it's natural. It's a way, it's what we want to do. Digital techniques are neither precede or separable from linguistic techniques. First of all, digital techniques are no less semiotic in substance. That's why we call it code. Yeah? It's discursive, it's produced. And I also think linguistic techniques, in the way that I'm sort of playing with these ideas from looking at the graphical play, there's a real sort of materiality about it, and I don't really know what I mean by that. What's interesting to me is that from Justine Kuplan and Annie Jaworski's really nice paper on transgressive rude stories with young kids from Wales, they use this notion of discursive license, and that there has to be a discursive license so that people, when they're in these kind of informal conversational settings, are allowed to break the constraints, to go beyond the formal. But I think creativity and innovation only emerge through or against normative practices, whether it's grammar or limited spaces and so on. So I take up the idea of creative license from Lawrence Lessig's work. I don't know it well, but it's everywhere in America at the moment. Anyone's talking about free culture and copyleft. And this idea that there is this dialect between the creative and the regulated, the innovative and the structured. But also what he plays with is the idea that perhaps the way that we deal with this, the way that we integrate, for pedagogical reasons perhaps, young kids' creativity, is to intensify it. To actually accept the fact that research is increasingly showing that kids who text message a lot have much better English language, traditional literacies. These things are not separated out. That in fact bringing this sort of material that you showed us yesterday, Rodney, fully into the classroom, and trusting the fact that the other literacies, the ones that we're often very concerned about, will follow. And I'm not sure where to take that, but that's what the notion of creative license that Lawrence Lessig plays with is about. It's actually not trying to control it, but actually intensify, bring it in fully and squarely, and let it do the driving kids to new media practices. But that's what I want to show you one last thing. I'll translate it for you, and I'll leave it with you. A little bit of psychodynamic theory. Thank you very much. Thanks.